Welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally. If you missed our last episode about the holidays and supports for a positive mindset for the new year, please go back and check it out. Our guest today has over 15 years of experience in education. She has served as an elementary teacher, a secondary math and humanities teacher, an elementary and secondary program director, an elementary principal, and she holds a master's in education and BA in English, my kind of girl. She's a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Currently, our guest is the Director of Partnerships and Programs at the STEAD School in Colorado. Please welcome to the Teachers Pep Rally, our guest and friend, Candace Cheung.
Woo!
Yay!
Best hands.
Oh my gosh. So listeners, this has been a long time coming. Candace and I have played phone tag after phone tag. We've emailed back and forth. You know how it is being an educator. And so this has been a long time coming. Candace, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited that I'm here as well.
Us too. So first
Super
and foremost, I'm thinking, Pete and Letitia, let's have Candace tell us in her own words, what is the STEAD School?
Great. Well, the STEAD School is a brand new public charter school that opened this past fall in Colorado, just outside of Denver. We're near the airport, if you're familiar with Denver. And we started with a cohort of ninth grade students, about 150 students, and we're going to grow 1 year at a time. And there are a lot of things that make the STEAD School special. But one of the main characteristics of the STEAD School is STEAD is an acronym that stands for Science, Technology, Environment, Agriculture, and Design. So we are an agricultural and environmental science school. So every student at our school is coming to our school to study an area of the agricultural sciences. And the pedagogy we're using to apply that curriculum is project-based learning. So it's very hands-on, project-based agricultural science school. And so we just started, as I mentioned, we opened in the fall of this year. We started in a temporary facility with our new students, and we are about 2 months into our brand new facility and going strong. So it's very exciting.
Very.
Letitia, a building full of freshmen.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And a building full of freshmen that weren't in a building last year.
Yes.
Very important as well.
That is very important.
Absolutely.
Yes, because of the pandemic. Well, this is exciting. And there's so many things, like I saw Pete and Letitia too, like their eyes getting big, especially when you were giving us the acronym, because there's some exciting words in there that you don't typically hear when you think about school. So I'm excited to dive into that a little bit more. But tell us about, just in case some people may not understand project-based learning, can you tell us a little bit more about that? I mean, you mentioned student-led, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are several different ways that people approach project-based learning, but the way that it's done at the STEAD School is that students are proposed with an overarching guiding question that doesn't have a definitive answer. And they are given that question at the beginning of a project block. And then the students have 5 to 6 weeks to explore that question and come up with an answer through their exploration and mini lessons that they receive from their guides. We call our teachers guides. And then at the end of that 5 to 6 week project block, they present their findings to the community. And that does not just mean their peers and their parents. That means community members, any partners we have, industry partners, specialists in the fields that they're studying, experts that they may be working with as they're exploring their guiding questions. So it's a pretty high stakes presentation at the end of a project block. And right now we are in our second project block of the year, and it is very hands-on. And I guess that would be the high level explanation of project-based learning at the STEAD School.
That was a good explanation.
Awesome. Where do I write the check, Candace? Where do I write the check?
Oh my gosh, we could use it. So just
I'm sure.
Tell me what address.
We will definitely make sure.
I'll tell you.
Well, to make sure at the end of the show to let people know where to find you, because these are definitely the types of programs that we hope to support.
Thank Thank you. I would love to add another special thing about the STEAD school that happens in between project blocks that is also project-based, if you don't mind if I do that now.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Is that all right? So
Yeah.
in between, the school year is divided up into approximately 5 project blocks. And then in between each project block, we have a week-long accelerator week where everything stops, our traditional schedule of a project and the project block. And we have a week-long in-depth study of one topic that all the students get to choose which topic they want to study. So our first accelerator week of the year, they could choose from physics, recycled art, skateboarding. The kids built skateboard ramps, mural painting. We did murals, all different things like that. And so right now, and the reason I wanted to share this is we're in our second accelerator week, which is in alignment with the National Western Center annual stock show, which is the largest stock show in the country. And so this week, our students have been out of their project block, full week immersed in the stock show experience and learning about all of the different agricultural sciences. So that happens in between our project blocks. And it's very exciting and also very hands-on.
That is exciting because I imagine that if I'm a student there, there's many opportunities for me to learn different things, but also if I find something that's really interesting and it becomes a passion of mine, you're not just giving me an introduction, but you're actually allowing me to get some hands-on experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
And hopefully you're going to tell me what things as a student that you're interested in so we can curate those opportunities for you.
That's great. And I assume that's where the community comes in a lot, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
I'm reading your core values and I wrote them down because there were 2 things that stuck out to me for the school. One is this idea around citizenship. So you mentioned that the students present their findings to the community. So that sounds like that kind of goes under that umbrella of citizenship. And then the other part that I was really interested in, it says head, heart, and hand.
Yeah.
How have you seen that just in the new year of this whole thing kind of play out with the students and as you're building really on these core values at the beginning of opening the school?
Well, I think that head, heart, and hand really is so much about the heart and about relationships. So as much as the school is an ag science school and project-based and all those things, it's really a school about relationships because we want our students to come in and care about, first of all, we want all of our students to want to be there. We want all of our students to be engaged in work that's meaningful to them. And that way that they're engaged in the work and that it isn't just like work that is curated in a false way. The work is intended to be real work that is really relevant in real time and that they can really make a difference. So within the context of that, we want them to be emotionally invested. And so that's where that heart comes in with the work. And then using their hands to explore and do things and get their hands dirty within the scope of the work. We have a greenhouse that we're building, a soils and seeds lab. So really having the opportunity to learn through their hands, to explore the things that they're thinking about in their heads that have meaning in their hearts. So all of those things tie together, hopefully in a way that really supports kids in wanting to be at school and feeling that what they're doing, especially adolescents, to really feel that what they're saying and doing is their ideas are heard and their contributions are meaningful, and they don't have to wait until later for those ideas and things to have meaning in the world that they're living in now. I don't know if that really answers what you're asking, but it's kind of an overview.
Okay, so I think Erin knows I'm about to explode right now. So Candace, I'm the therapist of the group.
All right.
Former teacher, so you're getting it all right now. First off, part of the reason why I was so excited about having you on is because I know nothing about agriculture. That's number one. Number two, the courage to open something like this up excites me. You know, human thinking and innovation just excites me. But then the therapist part of me thinks, what a beautiful opportunity for students who have been quarantined away from relationships, from people, from everything, to now be able to connect with peers, the earth, feel relevant, feel heard. I mean, for you to say things like, you know, student choice and voice, you know, so much has been done to them, you know, in this environment. And now for them to be empowered in such a way, I mean, I'm just super, super excited. So that's why I was getting ready to explode, because I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. And, you know, I really don't want us to even overlook, and I guess maybe I shouldn't be saying this on live programming here, but I really, you know, I'm a city girl, grew up in the city, poverty, didn't know a whole lot about agriculture, right? But the pandemic and the shortage of my produce has really shifted and given me a greater appreciation for all of it. So now, you know, like my heart is going out to farmers and this, you know, like this is real stuff and we're all interconnected. And so I think you're meeting so many needs, and even educating people like me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that you're bringing up that you don't have that background in agriculture, because I think that that is the exact point that we want our students and our families to recognize, is that this isn't a school for kids that want to go be farmers. This is a school for all people to learn about all of these different elements of the agricultural sciences, and they can, that experience can translate into so many different things in career-wise, and also just the experience of growing, harvesting, and producing is that full circle experience of community where everybody has to work together and everything is interdependent and you have to speak with one another. I mean, to your point also, is adolescence is the developmental period where you need practice socializing and to depend upon one another in an environment where kids have to literally walk over and talk to somebody else who maybe isn't their BFF, but is somebody that they need to ask, have you fed the chickens? Or do you need help with making lunch today? Because we've had a shortage even with our lunch being provided. So our students have been making lunch together for our community, and just it's so developmentally appropriate and it's for everyone. It doesn't mean it's just for farmers or just for ag kids or somebody that wants to be in that industry. It's really about interdependence, community, and having a bird's eye, big picture view of the importance of all of these things in the context of the entire global majority.
It's awesome. This is great stuff. You were going to say something earlier, Pete?
Yeah. So it boggles my mind when I go through the lunchroom and I see the amount of food that is wasted. Just the kids, and they're good kids everywhere. The kids in my school, I always tell them, so you're the best kids in the world. That's why I'm teaching you. That's why you're there. That's why I'm there. I want to be with you. They're great kids. They don't know. They don't know the process, the work, everything that goes into having that whatever produce on the tray in that lunchroom. They just think, hey, I woke up and here it is. And what a gift you guys are providing. Same thing with the lost and found. The lost and found in our school, it just starts getting, it's an avalanche of stuff, and it boggles my mind. And if these kids could see what goes into the making of that hat or those gloves, or so you guys are just instilling such a sense of ownership and a respect. I think that's a word I say a lot. The need for respect on all levels, and just the food that's in front of me right now, I need to have more respect for. The clothes that are keeping me warm, I need to have respect for. I think that would be wonderful if every school could pick up on, you don't have to be the STEAD school. You could pick up just on a few of these things and start making some small changes in your building, just doing things like that, having conversations like this.
I agree totally, Pete. So I'm also thinking about, there's a vision, I think, of the STEAD school that's posted on their website, and we'll tell everyone where to find your site, because it's fascinating, the images and the layout, especially the agricultural part of it. But part of that vision is to engage the students in solving or thinking about how we can solve complex global food, health, energy, and environmental issues. So since the school hasn't been around for many years, it's kind of neat because you're at the beginning of all this and you're getting to see it unfold. Have you seen some little things that students have already kind of taken and run with, or just some ideas that you can see are going to be these success stories and the reason why you guys started the school?
Yes, I think that it's evident. So every week we have a community meeting that the students run and host. And as you can imagine, starting a school with a staff of 20 people that have never worked together and 150, 60 students that have never been together. I mean, some of them went to middle school together, but even then they weren't at middle school.
Right.
I mean, we're just growing and learning about each other as a community. So right now, I would say one of the biggest celebrations is having a community meeting. And as you can imagine, being a new school and only being together as a community for these few months since the beginning of the year, one of the celebrations I would share is that I'm just blown away at how brave the students are to stand up in front of this new community and say things to one another about the things that they've already learned about. We had a student who was talking about plastic water bottles and where water is from and how we're, living as a community with our water intake, and was addressing that not from just from us as a student to the fellow students, was addressing that at community meeting. We've also had other students just advocate for different elements of our food program, and as you were bringing up, Pete, and we've had the opportunity. It was almost like a fluke where we weren't planning. All along, we want to be able to make lunch for ourselves, and that's a big task. And I have been in a program before where we've done that, and so you have to build up to it. But in the process of thinking about that idea, because of circumstances, we've had to make our lunch for ourselves several times. And that experience in itself has transformed so much of what has happened, because there's pride in that work. There's pride in it, and there's real hustle. I mean, it's such real work to have to plan a menu, go to the store, plan a budget, get the food prepared, cut up, cooked, and ready to go for that first lunch line of your fellow students, and knowing and hoping, I hope they like what we made. I hope the cornbread is cooked with the chili, and to go through the process of so kind, making sure they have gluten-free and vegetarian every different, meeting the needs, of every student and just person in the environment. I think that really it's not just the lessons of these global issues or those high stakes topics. It's just the building of community and consideration for one another, and the bravery in a new community as a 9th grader,
right,
an adolescent, a 14-year-old boy, to stand up and read a poem to an entire group. And I know you've all experienced this kind of stuff. This is why teachers are teachers, because it's the stuff that makes you sob. You're just like, this is amazing. And just sharing that kind of stuff and being vulnerable because of the reflections they've had from the meetings. I think that that's the biggest celebration so far. And I anticipate there's just gonna be so much more of that as we dig deeper.
I think it's a good reminder too, like Pete had mentioned, No one has to be the STEAD school, but there are things that you are all doing that you can model, you can create a foundation to start at your school. Just the piece of creating more opportunities for the community to be part of the kids' education, and vice versa, them sharing their learning experience with the community, I think is a big one. I used to do a research paper and the kids could pick whatever they wanted it to be. So it was kind of project-based. And then the big thing they had to do at the end, they had to give a TED talk on what they learned and why it matters. And then they'd have to do some kind of call of action. And so you're reminding me, Candace, of one kid years ago who had wanted to look into recycling. And is it really efficient? And is it really necessary? And why is it necessary? And the more he started researching, he kind of went down the dark hole of, oh my God, we're doomed. Like, we do need to be recycling. This is real. And at the end of it, I guess it kind of like I haven't seen it yet, but the Don't Look Up, I heard Netflix is kind of that reality. But his call of action, he wasn't sure what to do with that because it is such a huge thing to tackle. And I said, well, you could start out small. Just, I mean, no pun intended, plant a seed somewhere with someone else and then watch it grow. So at the high schools at the time, we had a CBI program, and the CBI program is for students who, for whatever reason, have needs that don't allow them to be in the general classroom, but it's an opportunity for them to come to school every day, be part of a school and the environment and that kind of thing. And so the kids in the CBI program were the ones with their teachers would collect the recycling every week. And so I said, why don't you go and do a little session with them and talk to them about how important it is what they're doing and why we need to keep doing that and what they're doing is making a difference. And he was so nervous, first of all, because, to go educate, someone his own age, let alone maybe kids that he didn't normally interact with. And I said, no, go. And so I went down there and snuck down there and watched him do it. And it was amazing. It was so amazing. And the kids, walked away with feeling pride with something they were doing because they hadn't thought about or really have an understanding of, like, it was just something neat that they got to do every week and, had their routine, but then to kind of learn how the school was appreciative for it. It was really kind of a neat student-led thing that they did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Can I ask, Candace, if we did a TPR field trip and we did a tour of the STEAD school on just a regular everyday, something that you see every day that would probably blow us away just walking through the halls, can you share some of that with us? Like, what are some of the things you experience every day that we would just be like, are you kidding me? But now this is your reality every day. Sounds like all of it.
Well, I think that sometimes it's hard for me to recognize that stuff, honestly. But I will say this. I definitely think, and we're building this culture because this is a different culture from what kids have experienced so far in a lot of ways. Not that, they haven't had some similar things, but there are a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. But I would say there's a lot of independent work happening where if you walk into the building, you could see a million different things happening at the same time. So it's a little bit controlled chaos.
I love it.
Definitely students working together independently, a lot of movement. So I would say on a typical day, you might walk in and you would see a bunch of students we have a center area of our building that's very library-esque-ish, where students would be working independently. You'd see some small group lessons. You might see two boys outside putting a basketball hoop together. You might see some kids harvesting some beeswax to make some chapstick. You might see some students chopping up some food in the kitchen to make some lunch for everybody if it's one of those special lunch days. You may see students, you would definitely see students laying on the floor, sitting on the floor at tables, standing and working. Lot of in and out of the building, which is a little chaotic sometimes. Students running the discussion rather than adults leading the discussion. We have, in one of our classrooms, we have a tea area, and students may be drinking tea while they're having their discussion. So I don't know if that captures a little bit of it.
Oh
In
my
our math curriculum, all the kids are standing. It's a thinking classroom. So I don't know if you're familiar with the thinking classroom, but for math, a lot of standing math problems happening in that environment as well. Small group lessons, all about 15-ish students. And then we also have an advisement curriculum. So you'll see a lot of circling up where kids are checking in for the day, talking about how they're doing socially, emotionally, not just academically, team building.
Wow.
All of that's happening.
We need to get the TPR school bus fueled up and get out of here. What are we doing?
I mean, what are we waiting for? So
Come
now
on
that,
over.
yes, I want to come. So now I'm putting on my recruiter hat. We talked about these amazing children, but I'm sure there's some amazing adults. How did you recruit your staff?
Right.
I'm so glad you asked me this, because today I had my meeting with one of my colleagues about recruiting our next founding group of guides for next year, which we're going to be starting soon. We just reached out. We had a pretty atypical job posting. Honestly, we asked all of our applicants to submit a project because that's what we're asking our kids to do. So we left it open for our applicants if they felt like it was something they were excited about the STEAD school and they read about it, to submit a project telling us about themselves. And interestingly, when we first proposed our school to some community members, the community members were concerned about us recruiting teachers, and they said, where are you going to get these unicorns? Where are you going to find these people? And we found them because there are people out there that want to do this kind of work. They want to be innovators. They want to be at the forefront. They want to rethink and practice recursive practice and come back and say, hey, this isn't working. How are we going to do this as educational scientists? We're asking the kids to be scientists, so we have to be scientists as well. So I think that just putting a job description out that described that it was an out-of-the-box experience. It was an experience to be a founder of a new school and to evolve and be part of the vision and creating the vision is what we did. And we were extremely fortunate to recruit an amazing team. I mean, it is hard work to open a school.
Mm-hmm.
It is harder work to open a school after a pandemic and recruit kids, and to have such a different kind of model, because this any model that is out of the norm for parents, for kids, and for teachers or staff, it is probably out of the norm for their experience. So it feels like they're taking a risk, and it's scary because it's different from what probably the majority of us have experienced as students. So a lot of our guides, they believe in this model. Some of them have lived parts of it. Some of them have lived a majority of it, and some of them haven't lived any of it. And so to buy into something like that and come on board full steam and say, I'm in, that's really impressive. And we're very, very fortunate. There isn't any magic thing other than just posting and putting the job description out there, but it's definitely a special person. And I will say the number one requirement, I'd say two requirements that we asked for applicants is that we want people that want to build meaningful relationships across the board, and you have to have a reverence for the adolescent, hands down. You have to be able to, you have to want to listen to kids and their ideas and really want to put your trust in them, because adolescents aren't for everyone.
Candace, I'm in an all boys academy, middle school and high school, so I understand the importance of reverence.
Yes.
That is awesome. That's awesome.
We're going to take a quick pause for our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Hi, are you curious about how your students are feeling? Despite our best efforts, it can be really hard to know how our young people are truly doing, especially now. WellCheck is here to help. WellCheck is a web-based app that allows students to complete a daily emotional check-in. In less than 1 minute, students are able to take inventory of their emotional state and communicate that important information to their teachers.
WellCheck flags students who may be in need of a little extra love, so educators can proactively intervene before larger issues arise. The app allows schools to track individual and class level data daily, as well as over time. To learn more about WellCheck, go to their website, www.wellcheck.com. You can also find them on Twitter at CheckWell. The goal of WellCheck is to give educators this information so that they can do what is best, which is supporting students.
Now back to the rally. So Candace, I was sitting here thinking you have some ELA background. I have ELA background. And as you're talking, I'm thinking of novels that would be really neat to use with the students to kind of get them making connections, even in history in the past, now real world connections. So let's have some fun and think of some books that we can suggest. And you probably already are maybe seeing kids reading them. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Grapes of Wrath, like an old classic. That'd be really interesting. The more modern one that I read recently that people are saying is kind of the modern version of that is Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I don't know if anyone's read it. That was really good. What else?
We just read The Martian.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, The Martian's perfect.
We just read The Martian.
This is so
That
cool.
was really fun. And then in the past, we've done, not at the STEAD School, but in a similar program, The Boy Who Planted Trees. But keep them coming. I'm writing them down.
Yes, I'm trying. And as we keep talking, I might just all of a sudden just yell one out, even if we've moved beyond this topic. But there's one in particular that's going to drive me crazy. So I'll email you. I remember it. But there was one I used to do with my students that was great. And everyone's going to be yelling at me now on the other side of their headphones. It's the one where it's about a community garden where everyone in the community starts to plant things. I can't remember the name of it. It's not Mango Street, no. Okay, we'll put it on our Facebook page because I can't think of it right now. Okay, well, thanks for going down that little ELA road with me.
Thanks for taking me.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
So
yeah.
I know, right? Like read about what you're doing and seeing the relevance and seeing, The Martian, that is just clever. What are some things that you've realized are important for a school to develop an inclusive community? Because I keep hearing like that's basically what you're talking about that the STEAD School does, with also access to this high quality of learning. Do you have some tips for anyone?
Well, one thing that I would recommend is just thinking about the size of your community. When we were setting up the STEAD School, we did a lot of the founding team really was intentional about researching what size makes a community. Like, what is the ideal size where people notice when you're absent and miss you when you're not there? And there is such a thing as too big. I think when you are striving to have something that is very interdependent, where people know each other's names, and of course, when you start to know one another, you start to care about one another. When you care about one another, you're much more understanding. So the number one thing I would say is that comes to mind, not in priority wise, but is just thinking about the size of your community if you're starting a program, whatever that is. The other thing as well is just creating environments where all strengths are at the table, diversifying your environments and diversifying your experiences. So one of the elements of the STEAD school with those accelerator weeks, project blocks, and otherwise is we take a lot of trips. We started the beginning of the year with 2 overnights in the woods with 100 whatever new kids and adults. And I think that having that kind of experience at any point during the school year is so important, because there are students that are not going to shine and be leaders in a classroom setting. And they need, if having the opportunity to be a leader in a different setting, like when you're camping or when you're going to the stock show or whatever that is going to allow for each person in the community to demonstrate what their strengths are and allow one another to be accepting of each other's strengths and recognizing them. So having diversified experiences that leave the classroom and even go somewhere overnight, I think are also extremely important. And then I would say the third piece that comes to mind would be, and we're still working on how we're going to map this out as we grow at the STEAD school, but just having multi-age environments. I'm a really big fan of having multi-age classrooms. And even if it's just in an advisement setting, having those leaders, having those students at different ages, it just allows for students to mentor one another and support one another in a way that, say, somebody isn't being inclusive or isn't being supportive of their classmate, it elevates the students to manage that as a community rather than the adults managing it. And so when you have those leadership opportunities by having multi-age environments, I think that it supports more of that leadership. And I don't want to say either that if you have 9th through 12th grade, then a 9th grader can't be a leader, because certainly we've all seen that as well.
Mm. Multi-age. Pete, I saw you nodding your head.
Holy cow. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I remembered what the name of the book was.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's Seed Folks. Seed Folks.
Oh, yes.
And then the other one that I had on my mind that I didn't mention, but it's The Circuit. The Circuit.
You rock.
It's still there somewhere. It's just, gotta get through the top. Yeah.
Do a little dusting.
Well, I know our listeners love lists, so thanks, Candace. That was a really good one. And again, I think anyone could just pick up any of those different ideas and carry them over. So I mentioned that you did serve in the military, so thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
I wrote a little side note, and I wonder if there was any lessons or anything from your military experience that you have found helpful to what you're doing now.
Wow. I'd have to give that. I think, well, when I was in the military, I was very fortunate in that I was able to live in several different places in the United States and outside of the United States as well. And I think that those experiences of being in different communities has really helped me in the field of education in support of just being side by side with students that are in uncomfortable situations. So I think that one of the things all people are learning, but I mean, adolescents, as they're navigating being a social person and that road to adulthood, because they're basically practicing being an adult. They have some things, of course, that come up that are uncomfortable and maybe situations that or environments that they're not used to. And I feel like just talking through that, or even just sharing stories of situations. So I'm a storyteller, as many educators are, and that is very helpful in the classroom. And I think just sharing stories and talking to the students about those experiences can help translate some of the things that they're feeling sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, last question. Do you have a teacher, a mentor, a coach, or someone from when you were growing up that you feel like you want to kind of give a shout out to, or that maybe gave some kind of spark to who you are today?
Well, of course, there's so many to choose from. And I just, side note, I want to tell you, I listened to your episode right before break, and I loved all the gifts that you had shared that your students had given you. And I was like, I don't know how they chose just one. That would be so hard.
It's hard.
So I'm finding myself in the same situation right now. But I think that I would give a shout out to one of my colleagues. His name is Charlie Myers. And he has been a longtime colleague of mine. We co-taught in a classroom together. And he was also an administrator with me at one point. And I think the thing that I really admire about him is he has had an unwavering commitment to kids. And he's not just a professional mentor, he's also one of those people that I'm a parent and he's a parent, and I'm just like, he's my parenting guru that I go to as well. But he's just a fabulous human being. And I know we all have those people that whenever I'm about to do something, I'm like, I don't know, how would I react to this if Charlie were standing there right now?
What would Charlie do?
Me and Chet.
What would Charlie do?
So I would shout out to Charlie Myers. He's an incredible human being and educator. And I know that he has had probably at this point 20 years of students that cherish him as a teacher. He's one of those people that you never forget.
That's awesome. And it's a good reminder. We all need at least one person like that.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So here's the part where we like to kind of give a little takeaway or the spark of an idea that maybe you gave us in this conversation. And then, of course, as our guest, we'll let you kind of have the final word of it or any other thoughts that you might have. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. Sure.
All right. So Fred Abley's not here. So what's next on the alphabet? Oh, Pete Bush, why don't you go first?
Lots, so many aha moments.
Yes.
The concept of an accelerator week, what a great idea for a battery recharger for both the students and the teachers. I just love it. What a great idea. I think I do something like that with my older kids. I just never called it that. I never realized. So that's really, really cool. And then I loved later on, you said, create an environment where all strengths have a seat at the table. That is just the answer to so much right there. And then the last one is hashtag, what would Charlie do? Let's just start that right now. Get that out there.
Yeah, let's get that out there.
Charlie, he sounds like a great guy. But thank you so much. You are awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You are too.
Well, Candace. I'm just so thankful and honored that you spent some time with us today and shared your space. You have truly made my heart warm and fuzzy. And I've been very much encouraged. But the thing to me, so many things like Pete stood out, but I wrote down your thoughtfulness and intentionality. I mean, I just felt like this has just been so well thought out. I know you're in the beginning stages and some days it probably doesn't feel that way, but the level of thoughtfulness and intentionality, even with language, I noticed that teachers are called guides, students host, that makes a difference. Language makes a difference. And so those things stuck out to me. Student choice and voice, of course, is up there. But again, thank you for your courage, your leadership, your innovation. I need to write a check and get on a plane. Aaron, thank you for working hard to get her on. This was awesome.
I went the minute I learned about their school was like, this is
awesome.
This has to happen.
Awesome.
Wow. So yeah, I wrote a lot of notes tonight too, and I'm kind of surprising myself. I'm going to go with what you were talking about, a size of a community. Because I'm kind of in the space right now. I'm writing a blog about meetings and thinking about how many people you have in a meeting. And there is something too, it can be too big, like for the purpose of what a meeting's supposed to be. And so it got me thinking too about this idea of a community. I mean, you can have your heart to be as wide as you want for a community or communities, but if you're really trying to make an impact or build relationships, there is something to thinking about start small, start planting that little seed and then let it grow. But, let's not overwhelm ourselves. Let's, like Letitia was saying, this idea of intent, let's have intention through what we're doing. So I'm so glad that you came on, Candace. Do you have any last thoughts or words that you'd like to say?
Well, I have a couple things I wanted to share for any listeners of where to find information for the STEAD
Great.
School, but I did want to say one little silly thing for Pete and Accelerator Weeks. And it's an idea if you don't mind.
Yep.
I had a colleague that did an immersive Accelerator Week on the 80s, and the kids loved it. And it was super fun. So if you ever want to know more about it, or anybody wants to hear more about it, I'd love to connect you with that person because it was super fun.
That's
so just
cool.
a little side note. Yeah.
Very cool.
And then, so if anybody's interested in the STEAD School, our website is the steadschool.org, STEAD for STEAD. If anybody wants to get in contact with me, my email address is Candace Cheung. It's just Cheung, CCHEUNG at thesteadschool.org. And if anybody is interested in moving to beautiful Colorado and being a founder at the STEAD School, we would love for you to apply. Go ahead and just shoot me an email and we'll get you all squared away, and I'll send you the information on our postings and we can chat. It's a very, no problem whatsoever to jump on a call and answer questions if somebody wants to learn more. And we're pretty informal about how we start our relationships because we want to get to know people. So
I love it.
Awesome.
Thank you. And Pete, where can our TPR listeners find us?
Hey, we got our website, teacherpeprally.com, Facebook group, starting up the Instagram. We're on YouTube. Please make sure you subscribe, leave us a video, leave us a review. And that's about that. We're missing Fred tonight, so let him know we're missing him.
Yeah, he's doing okay. But yeah, Fred wasn't with us tonight. You missed out, Candace, on the goofiness of Fred. I know he missed being here, but we're so glad that you're able to come and like Letitia said, spend some of your valuable time in your space with us. So thank you, Candace.
thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.